She was just another hotel maid, until one phone call in a foreign language exposed the truth she had been forced to hide for years. At the luxurious Crystal Crown Hotel, staff were expected to stay invisible, especially cleaners. But when Elena, a young maid, secretly answered her ringing phone in the middle of the grand lobby, she broke the #1 rule. What stunned everyone wasn't the fact that she picked up, but the language she spoke. Fluent, flawless Dutch rolled off her tongue, leaving the Millionaire hotel owner frozen in place. In that single moment, her life took a turn no one could have predicted. Elena had worked at the Crystal Crown Hotel for 6 long years. With a degree in international relations from her home country, she once dreamed of a career in diplomacy. Instead, she spent her nights scrubbing floors and changing sheets, her resume ignored, her applications for promotions quietly discarded. Her manager, Mrs. Green, made sure she stayed in her place. Rules were strict for the cleaning staff. No personal calls, no interaction with guests, no exceptions. Receptionists could gossip on their phones all day, but one mistake from Elena meant punishment. That morning, when her phone vibrated, she almost let it ring. But the number flashing on her screen was one she had been waiting for, the University of Amsterdam. Her 6th attempt at securing a scholarship depended on this call. Heart-pounding, she stepped behind a marble column and answered. "Elena Fischer," she whispered in Dutch. The professor on the other end responded fluently, discussing her application. Elena replied smoothly, her accent so perfect it could have belonged to a native. For her, it was routine. For the millionaire standing a few feet away, it was astonishing. Mrs. Green noticed too, but for her, it was an opportunity to crush Elena further. Within minutes, Elena was dragged into the manager's office. "You embarrassed us," Green snapped, eyes burning with fury. "A maid speaking some foreign language in front of Mr. Caldwell? You made the hotel look ridiculous." Elena tried to explain, but it didn't matter. The punishment came fast. Reassigned to night shift restroom duty, the harshest task in the hotel. As she walked out, defeated, she didn't know that Caldwell hadn't forgotten that phone call, and that her punishment was about to set off a chain reaction she never expected. The following morning, Elena reported for her new punishment. Scrubbing the convention center bathrooms after a late-night corporate event. The air reeked of spilled liquor, her gloves stuck to the floor, and her back ached from bending over sinks that glittered with champagne stains. She thought no one noticed her anymore, until her name echoed through the loudspeaker. "Elena Fischer, please report to Human Resources, immediately." Her heart froze. HR summons usually meant one thing, termination. She removed her gloves, wiped her hands, and made her way up the staff elevator. The higher the floors climbed, the more nervous she grew. Cleaning staff never stepped foot into the executive wing. When the elevator doors opened, Elena stepped into a different world. Plush carpets, gold-framed art, the hum of executives discussing million-dollar deals. She felt invisible as always, until the HR director herself greeted her. "Mr. Caldwell would like to see you." The Millionaire owner's office was bigger than her entire apartment. Richard Caldwell, sharp-suited and known for turning bankrupt hotels into empires, was waiting at his desk. He didn't waste a second. "Dutch, French, Spanish, and German?" he asked bluntly, flipping through a folder. Elena blinked, startled. "How do you—" "Your resume," Caldwell interrupted. 6 years working here with a degree in international relations and fluent in 4 languages, yet housekeeping?" His eyes narrowed. "Why?" Elena hesitated, then spoke. "Honestly, I applied for dozens of positions. Every time my applications disappeared. My manager said I wasn't a good fit." Caldwell's expression hardened. He had suspected corruption and favoritism within his management team, but hearing it firsthand confirmed his fears. "Tomorrow, we're hosting a trade summit. with Dutch and German executives. I need someone who speaks both languages, someone who understands cultural nuances. Elena tried to smile politely. And you want me to clean their rooms? No, Caldwell said firmly. I want you to coordinate their meetings, starting today. Salary, $5,000 a week. Her jaw dropped. 5,000? That was more than she made in 3 months of scrubbing floors. She almost thought it was a cruel joke. But Caldwell wasn't joking. He slid a new badge across the desk, International Relations Coordinator, as she stepped into the hallway, clutching the badge with trembling hands. A familiar voice cut through the air. What are you doing here without a uniform? It was Mrs. Green. Her face paled when Elena turned and replied with quiet strength. Working, at Mr. Caldwell's direct request. For the first time in 6 years, Elena wasn't invisible anymore, but what she didn't know was that this sudden promotion would uncover something much darker than favoritism, something that threatened to shake the entire hotel empire. By afternoon, Elena was seated in a sleek conference room preparing documents for the upcoming trade summit. Stacks of contracts, translation notes, and cultural guidelines filled the table. At first glance, everything looked professional, but as she read the German version of a key partnership proposal, her stomach dropped. The translation was wrong, not just a typo, disastrously wrong. Certain phrases carried insulting undertones that in a business context could offend delegates and sabotage the entire deal. She immediately began correcting the errors, her pen racing across the page. Halfway through, she sensed someone standing in the doorway. It was Caldwell, watching silently. You caught it, he said, almost to himself. Elena nodded. Whoever translated this doesn't understand cultural nuance. These terms could ruin negotiations. Caldwell's jaw tightened. Mr. Whitman, Director of Operations, swore he hired the best translators. Cost us over $50,000. Whoever did this was no professional, Elena replied calmly. These are beginner mistakes. Caldwell said nothing, but his eyes sharpened. For months he had received complaints about high costs and sloppy results. Now, with Elena's proof, the picture was clearer. Someone was siphoning money, hiring unqualified people, and covering it up. The next morning, the trade summit began. Executives in tailored suits filled the lobby, speaking in Dutch and German. Elena moved among them effortlessly, switching languages as though she had lived in both countries her entire life. Delegates smiled in relief as she clarified contracts and explained cultural nuances, issues that would have otherwise caused awkward silence. But while guests praised her, Caldwell noticed something else. Whitman's face growing tighter with every passing hour. He avoided eye contact with Elena, whispering urgently with Mrs. Green in dark corners. Late that evening, as Elena left the conference hall, she overheard Green's voice. She's digging too deep. If she finds out who signed those contracts, the words froze her in place. Whatever scheme was running through this hotel was bigger than she had imagined, and she was now standing right in the middle of it. The second day of the summit began with excitement. Deals were progressing smoothly, thanks largely to Elena's flawless translations, but beneath the polished surface, tension thickened. Caldwell had ordered his team to verify all translation contracts from the past 5 years. That afternoon, Elena discovered something chilling. A stack of final translation documents was slipped onto her desk, supposedly ready for signing. As she skimmed through them, her eyes widened. The same errors she had corrected the night before were back. Someone was deliberately replacing her corrected versions with flawed ones. She rushed to Caldwell's office. "Sir, look at this," she said, showing the papers. "These aren't just mistakes. Someone is trying to sabotage the agreements." Before Caldwell could respond, the door burst open. Whitman, the Director of Operations, strode in with a forced smile. "Richard, I think your new assistant is overstepping. She's a maid, not a linguist. Let's not embarrass ourselves in front of international clients." Elena held her ground. "Then explain why these contracts contain insults disguised as translations." "I fixed them yesterday. Who replaced them?" Caldwell's eyes narrowed. "Whitman, these errors could have cost us millions, and yet your department signed off on them." For a moment, the room was silent. Whitman's mask slipped, his voice sharpened. "You think you can trust her? She scrubs toilets. She doesn't belong here." But his outburst betrayed him. Caldwell had heard enough. "Get out," he ordered coldly. Whitman's face turned red, but he obeyed. As the door closed, Caldwell looked back at Elena. "He's hiding something, and you may be the only person who can help me prove it." For the first time, Elena realized this wasn't just about her career. She had stumbled onto a conspiracy, and exposing it could destroy powerful people who would do anything to silence her. By the third day of the summit, Caldwell had quietly launched a full internal audit. Elena provided every corrected draft, every flawed version, and even copies of her ignored promotion requests. Meanwhile, Caldwell's investigators uncovered something worse. The translation company Whitman had been using belonged to his cousin. The hotel had been paying 3 times the market rate for incompetent work, while qualified employees like Elena were deliberately blocked. That morning, as delegates gathered in the ballroom, Caldwell called an emergency meeting. All department heads were present, including a visibly nervous Whitman and Mrs. Green. Elena stood quietly at the side, her badge gleaming under the lights. "Over the last 3 years," Caldwell began, his voice steady but sharp, "this hotel has lost millions due to fraudulent contracts, nepotism, and deliberate discrimination against qualified staff." Murmurs rippled through the room. Caldwell continued, "Today, we correct that mistake. Effective immediately, Thomas Whitman is terminated for cause. Sarah Green is suspended pending further investigation." Gasps filled the room. Whitman jumped to his feet. "This is outrageous. You're trusting a cleaning lady over me?" Caldwell's eyes flashed. "Not a cleaning lady. A graduate in international relations, fluent in 4 languages, the very talent you buried because she didn't fit your prejudice system." Delegates, many of whom had seen Elena's skill firsthand, broke into quiet applause. Whitman was escorted out by security, his face pale with rage. Green sat frozen, knowing her fate would soon follow. Then Caldwell turned toward Eleanor. "Your diligence and integrity saved this summit and exposed a rot within my company. From today, you are officially our Director of International Relations." The room erupted. Some clapped with genuine pride, others in shock. Elena, overwhelmed, could only whisper, "Thank you." For 6 years she had been invisible. Now, in front of everyone, her true worth could no longer be ignored. Weeks later, the Crystal Crown Hotel was no longer the same place Elena once mopped floors in. Her new office overlooked the skyline of Chicago, her nameplate reading Director of International Relations. But for Elena, the title wasn't the victory. It was what came after. Under Caldwell's direction, she launched a program called Hidden Talent Initiative. Its mission: to identify employees who had been overlooked or held back by prejudice. Within 3 months, the audit revealed over 80 staff members with advanced degrees, language skills, or professional certifications, yet all trapped in low-paying positions. Many were women, immigrants, or people of color. Elena personally mentored several of them, determined to ensure that no one else would spend years ignored, as she once had. As for Whitman and Green, Whitman's corruption charges spread quickly through the industry, leaving him unemployable. Green accepted a demotion at a remote property, far from the power she once wielded. Their downfall was swift, but Elena's rise was just beginning. "Afternoon," she called her mother overseas. Tears welled in her eyes as she said, "Mom, they finally see me, not as a maid, not as someone invisible, but as who I truly am." Her mother's voice cracked with emotion. "I always knew, Mija. I always knew." But Elena didn't stop there. She used part of her new salary to fund scholarships for hotel employees and their children. For her, success wasn't about escaping injustice. It was about tearing it down so others could rise too, and it had all started with one phone call in Dutch that she was never supposed to answer. If Elena's story made you reflect on how often real talent is hidden behind prejudice, then don't just stop here. Leave a comment, share your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful stories of ordinary people who turned injustice into transformation. Because sometimes the smallest moment, just a phone call, can change everything.